All right, so does it look like I'm recording, Chelsea? Okay, thank you. All right, that was my reminder to myself. Yes, it's being recorded for those who are unable to attend. And it will also be the recording in case you want to go back and rewatch or listen to anything that you might have missed today. We will, once the recording is ready, we'll post it to our Z Fairs registration Science Fair website, and it'll be there throughout Science Fair season as a resource for all of you. Uh, to start today, I'll introduce myself. I'm Michelle Roy, for those of you that I haven't met. I am I run lead as the of the team who puts on the county science fair, but I would be absolutely nuts if I thought I could do it alone. Absolutely no way. I have an amazing team who work alongside me to make sure that this is the best event possible for you and your students. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and we'll start with Christy, who's really the brains of the operation and who you'll be hearing from a whole bunch if you haven't already heard from Christy. So I want you to put a face with a name, and then we'll go to Chelsea and then Justin.
Hi, everybody. Like Michelle said, my name is Christy. A lot of you probably know who I am from past science fairs, but I am the STEAM secretary and I do assist Michelle and the rest of the team with everything related to science fair. So you will hear from me a lot this year.
Hello, I'm Chelsea Lancaster. For those of you that don't know me, I also assist Michelle with the science fair, and I saw some of you at our Science Fair 101 workshop on Tuesday, so I'm glad to see your faces again.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Jansen, STEM coordinator with KCSOS. And those of you that are returning, we're glad to see everyone back for another year. And those first timers, it's a amazing event for yourselves, for your students, and for the parents and everyone. So really excited to see how much it's grown in the past few years.
Thanks, everyone. That's our science fair team. And in addition to the folks at Kern County Superintendent of Schools who work on the logistics side of things, we partner with the Kern County Science Foundation, who is instrumental in helping to secure the necessary funding to make sure that all of the things that we need to put on to make our event special all happens through the dedicated work of the Kern County Science Foundation, and we really could not do it without them. And I can't see everyone who's in the training today due to the view I have my laptop in, but Matt Kadzierski, the president of the Kern County Science Foundation, are you here with us this afternoon, Matt? Well, Matt Kadzierski, I guess, couldn't join us today, but he's the president of the Kern County Science Foundation, and he and the other members of the foundation, our community partners, really do a fantastic job to support us and all of the students in putting on this world-class event. So today, here are some things that we'll be talking about. Could we make sure that oh, I need to mention this before we move on. First of all, can we make sure that we all stay on mute throughout the whole training today? And also, as I mentioned earlier today, we will have, I will cover a fair amount of content today. And so as we are rolling along, Justin, Chelsea, and Christy will all be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in real time in the chat. And as much as possible, we'll get those questions answered through the chat. Now, in the end, if there are still some lingering questions that we need to get answered at the very end, we'll do that. But I ask that you stay on mute. This is a very large crowd this afternoon. So if we could just hold all the questions until the very end, or just feel free to put them in the chat as the questions come up. And my team is super experienced. They'll get those questions answered for you or clarifications that you need. All right, so with that said, today we're going to be talking about the science fair in general. You're going to learn about what your roles and responsibilities are as a science fair coach. We're going to dive into project guidelines and begin to talk about categories that the students compete in for the science fair. We'll talk about deadlines. We'll begin to talk a little bit about the registration process. We'll touch on judging criteria and the judging process. We'll go over some resources and other supports for coaches and teachers. And if we have any questions left at the end, we'll make sure we get all those answered before we log off this afternoon. All right. So why science fair? Well, first of all, Kern County here we're really uniquely slated and ripe, if you will, for an event such as science fair. And because as you can see here from this graphic, in particular, we like to note that, believe it or not, Kern County is number 4 in the nation in terms of STEM job availability. And as educators here in our great county, it's our responsibility to prepare that STEM pipeline of students, if you will, that are prepared to take on those STEM jobs after they pass through our K-12 system. And it's events like the Kern County Science Fair that help adequately prepare our workforce here in Kern County and help to secure a prosperous economy for us all, who make our homes here in Kern County. And in addition to that, here's a second graphic where you can see that Kern County is the energy capital of, just continuing to think about STEM opportunities, here in Kern. We're the largest provider of oil in the state of California. 60% of the solar in the state of California comes from Kern County. And, both of those industries require workers. The largest wind farm in the US is in Kern County. Super cool. Battery storage for solar. And then, if you think about East Kern, all of the aerospace and Department of Defense, between China Lake and Edwards Air Force Base, NASA's out there, SpaceX. Kern County is a really cool place in terms of STEM. So we need to make sure that our students are adequately prepared for that in their future. And so when we think about the purpose of science fair, we think of a couple of key points around the encouragement of STEM education. And really at the heart of it all is just to spark curiosity and, real enthusiasm for the STEM fields, first and foremost, where students really get to dig deep into something that they're really interested and curious about learning more of. The development of the critical thinking and problem solving and the research skills that go into preparing a science fair project, as well as students learning about the scientific investigation process, engineering design, the engineering design process, both critical for success in the future. And, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that, there is some recognition and reward as part of participating in a competition. Students are rewarded for their efforts and their hard work as participants in a competitive event like Science Fair. And in addition to that, my personal favorite is the community engagement piece. If you're new to Science Fair, you may not know that on the big day of judging, we have upwards of 200 community volunteers from STEM industries who come out to judge the students and talk with them one-on-one. And I really think that for the students, that's really the best part of Science Fair, getting to meet face to face and have conversations with and present their projects to real scientists and engineers from our community. It's really a special time, not only for the students, but the community members really enjoy it as well. Now, just to set the stage and get you excited about science fair for those of you who've been before, but for those of you that never have, I do want to play this short video which summarizes or highlights science fair from this, our Kern County Science Fair from 2024, just to give you an idea. Sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, so this might be better than me just telling you about it. How about if we see a little bit about it?
Today we're at the Kern County Science Fair. Each of the students who are here today are winners of their school science fair. Our middle schoolers and our high schoolers, they're vying this year for the first place spot in their category. Our first place winners will get to go on to the California State Science Fair. In our senior division, our high schoolers are actually, there's a special panel walking the floor today who's looking for our top 2 projects in our senior division overall, and those students will represent Kern County at the International Science and Engineering Fair. It's a huge, huge honor that's sponsored and funded by the Kern County Science Foundation.
Your category that you put here, or is this the results of them taking the test?
So this is basically the percentages that they got on their Myers-Briggs test.
Okay.
We have about 550 students here today, ranging from 4th grade through high school. We have about 220 judges from various industries and organizations throughout the county volunteering their time. I've personally been judging for about 25 years. This is a passion of mine. I started with my kids doing science fair, and I just love watching the kids doing this, the joy in their faces of being able to talk about their own work and how proud they make them feel. And I love giving back to the community.
Much thing because it's all like hollowed together, but this one has very, like, the aluminum has very much space, so it has room to vibrate.
I am looking for the scientific knowledge of the student. I'm making sure that what they think is going to happen is supported by their data and why. And do they do it enough time to really get the good conclusion out of the material? Because, you know, one time could be a fluke. Multiple times, we can get the good answer. And you know, every time you have a hypothesis, you may prove yourself wrong. But if you can understand why you did it wrong or why your hypothesis is wrong, that's learning.
I wanted to find different substitutes to modern antibiotics, and so I decided to test different spices. And so I found out that cinnamon is the most effective, and garlic, which I hypothesized to be the most effective, was actually the least effective. And there can be many reasons. One is I didn't use raw garlic, and so that's something I can improve upon in the future. I'm actually very intimidated at first, but when I'm talking to the judges, it's like a flow, and it comes out naturally because I worked on this for a whole semester, and it's my hard work.
I'm amazed at some of the projects that we see here. Like 6th graders doing high school level and even beyond that, answering questions that would be answered in a master's program. And I'm serious about that, a master's level program. It's amazing. I'm just so excited for the future.
All right. So hopefully now you have, for those of you who are, especially to those of you who are new, have a better idea of just how awesome the big day is at the Kern County Science Fair. Lots and lots and lots of people come together to celebrate some pretty incredible kids. So who can participate? In order to participate in the Kern County Science Fair, first of all, you have to live in Kern County, and we also require that you attend a Kern County school. And of course, the Kern County Science Fair is open to public school, Kern County public school students, as well as Kern County charter schools, Kern County homeschoolers, Kern County private schoolers. You know, we have a wide variety of students who are qualified to participate, but yeah, we need our participants must live in Kern County and go to school here, and be in grades 4 to 12. The science fair is open to students in that grade span, and in the grades 4 to 12, students are able to participate as individuals. And for our students who are in middle school and high school, our students in grades 6 to 12, they can do a group project, participate as a group. And for science fair, our definition of a group is up to 3 students in that group. And to clarify that, if students are in grades 4 and 5, they cannot do a group project. Students in grades 4 and 5 all must compete individually. So thinking about roles and response, let's think about this first. Roles and responsibilities of our coaches and our teachers and our students. And as you probably would expect, you are responsible for supporting the student selection as well as the development of the project. The truth is that a lot of our students also get a lot of support from home, and that's okay too. But we ask that our coaches and teachers as the school site representatives make sure that everything is happening according to the rules, and that what the students are actually doing as part of their science fair project is safe. And also, it's part of the role of the roles and responsibilities of the coaches and teachers to just put those finishing touches on the presentation, as far as the oral presentation, the interview process, as well as giving a little bit of support with the display board itself. The student responsibilities are around actually doing the project, right? Being engaged in the research and the experimentation. We want to make sure that our students are following deadlines and guidelines and rules, and that they are presenting their findings in a clear and professional way. There's a lot of learning to be had here. And also, it's the responsibility of the school itself to select projects through a school level science fair. Students are, in order to compete in the Kern County Science Fair, projects typically compete in a school level science fair first of some sort. So that is part of the role of the coach, teacher, or others on a school site. It's also the responsibility of the school to be familiar with the rules, the science fair rules, as well as the restricted project guidelines and regulations as well. And then in addition to that, to make sure that the students who will be representing the school actually get registered in our online registration system. And we'll put that link in the chat for those of you that haven't seen it. Good news, we're still using Z-Fairs. We're still sticking with the Z-Fair. So those of you who have been around Science Fair for a while can breathe a deep sigh of relief that in that situation, nothing has changed there. And I guess I'll go ahead and mention that if you've been a teacher around Science Fair for a while and you created a Z-Fairs account previously, that account is still live and your password and whatnot should all still work. But that being said, if you have any troubles, just email us and we'll help you reset your password. But we'll put the link to Z-Fairs in the chat if you want to take a look at that on the side. You might be curious to know, well, if projects have to qualify from school, how many projects can a school send? Well, here's that information for you. Our elementary school campuses can send up to 5 projects. It's not 5 not 5 students, but 5 projects. If you're on a middle school campus, whether it be a traditional middle school like grade 6, 8, or whether you're a junior high situation, you can send up to 15 projects. And for our high schoolers, on a big high school campus, you can send up to 20 projects. And again, I'm emphasizing, especially in grades 6 to 12, remember you can do, some of the students will be in groups. So it's not individuals, it's not, your quota is not based on individual status, it's based on the actual number of projects themselves. So 5, 15, or 20, depending on which grade span you're here representing today. So as the teacher or adult sponsor, again, you're responsible for making sure that you're checking in on the health and safety of the students, conducting the research, and if there is the offhanded chance that there is any sort of experimentation being done with humans or animals, that everyone is kept safe. We recommend that you're reviewing the student's project plan to make sure that the experimentation is done within the school and Kern County Science Fair rules. And should there be any necessary approvals as part of the that as pertaining to the rules and guidelines, we want to make sure that you are getting the proper signatures for those as well. And we also suggest that in keeping with making sure that the projects are safe and that the projects are adhering to the guidelines and rules of the Kern County Science Fair, that there be we call it an institutional review board, but really that's the fancy word for some sort of committee on your campus that does look at the projects that you send before you actually register them for the Kern County Science Fair, that there has been some discussion around safety and adherence to the rules before the projects are actually registered and submitted to the Kern County Science Fair. We hope that the IRB on a school campus is taking care of that prior to registration. Because what we have found has happened in just a few instances in the last couple of years is that there will unfortunately be a project or two that ends up registered for the Kern County Science Fair that actually does not meet the safety guidelines or the science fair rules, and the project ends up getting disqualified. The student or the project is not able to compete in the science fair, in the Kern County Science Fair. And as you can imagine, there's a really disappointed student who's attached to that decision, and often usually a parent or two that is quite angry about that as well. So if as school sites, coaches, teachers, if you can really make sure that all those rules and safety guidelines get reviewed on your campuses prior to registration, that can really help prevent any sort of painful decisions or painful situations that can happen later. And the team at KCSOS is here to support you or to help you in making those decisions. If you have any questions or you need to run things by us, all you have to do is email us. I get lots of those questions in the months before Science Fair. So my recommendation to all of you is to err on the side of caution. And if you're unclear or not sure about something, please email us and let's get that taken care of so that maybe this year we can have a science fair where it's 100% disqualification free, because nothing hurts my heart more than telling a student who has worked so hard that they're disqualified. It really puts me in an awkward position too, and it really is heartbreaking for all parties involved. Something else to consider for students, the student also needs to be familiar with the rules. The student needs to be a part of the online registration process. They need to make sure that they are meeting deadlines. If the registration fee is not paid by the school, the student's family, or a situation of the like, they would need to be responsible for that as well. Also, the students are going to work with the school to get themselves registered. Typically, the registration process is a partnership between the student and the teacher. We find that works best. There are some extreme cases where registration actually has to happen by a parent, but really, by and large, that seems to work best if registration actually is done by the teacher coach. All right, let's keep rolling along here. And again, if you have questions as I'm going through things, go ahead and put those in the chat. And Justin and Chelsea and Christy are trying to get as many of those questions answered as possible. So how are projects placed in categories? Well, when you register, there will be a drop-down menu where you'll get to select the category that you think or you would like for your project, for the projects to actually compete in. But then what happens is after registration closes, the project review committee meets and reviews all the abstracts for all the projects that have been registered. And we're doing another safety check, as well as making sure that the projects are actually adequately placed in the most appropriate category for that project. So what you might find is that after registration, the category that you had originally chosen may have changed. And if that happens, it's because the project review committee chose to move that project to a different category. And it is the decision that the project review committee makes is final. Once the project review committee makes those decisions, they are the scientific experts. We pull together a team of scientists and engineers from the community who make those decisions, and their decisions are final. We try to align our categories with the California State Science Fair, as well as the International Science and Engineering Fair. It's typically where our categories come from. And in some cases, we may add or delete categories based on the number of projects that are actually registered that year. For instance, if we have a very large number of fourth grade projects that are chemistry projects, we may actually have a couple different kinds of chemistry categories because we have so many students who are competing in that category. And that is another thing that the project review committee looks at, is trying to even out the number of projects in each of the categories as well for judging purposes. Now, let's talk about abstracts for a moment. We're going to drop a link to a sample abstract, a document about how to write an abstract in the chat right now. Of all the parts of the science fair process, the one where most students fall short is in this preparation of the abstract. And as I mentioned before, the project review committee is making their decisions on what category to put a project in based on the abstract. And oftentimes when students are registered in Z-Fairs, they either put a 5-word abstract in Z-Fairs, or they don't put an abstract in there at all. So in essence, we're really just trying to guess based on a title or a very poorly written abstract, trying to decide, oh my goodness, what did this student do? What is this project all about? So it is absolutely critical for the project review committee to have a complete and thorough abstract that includes all of these components. In addition, on the day of science fair judging, you probably also need to know that there's an hour where the judges actually get to prejudge the projects based on the student abstract. And again, if the abstract is not complete and thorough and well done, you're already the judges are already looking at that project as potentially subpar just based on the abstract. So for that reason, as the teacher coach, if you could really help us out by checking abstracts and really working with students around the quality of those, that would help all parties involved immensely. This is a pretty critical piece of the process. And also thinking about what makes a project at the science fair competitive is that it must be an investigation and not a demonstration. And I always like to use the example of, yeah, it's really cool to say, okay, how does a volcano work? And a student builds like a paper mache volcano or a salt and flour volcano, something like that. And you pour together some baking soda and vinegar and pooh, it goes off and yay, super cool, right? There was like lava pouring down the volcano and the student can explain how a volcano works, yada, 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 yada. Good job. That's a demonstration. That is not an investigation. What we're looking for is, did the student collect data? It's an investigation. Really, at the heart of an investigation is this versus that. And if you look at my examples around, do plants need light to grow? That's a yes or no answer. How does a battery work? Those are both demonstrations. Whereas, under what kind of light do plants grow best? Where you're comparing, like for instance, a grow light to a fluorescent light or sunlight. There are some variables that are being compared. If that's not part of the process, it's probably a demonstration. And I can tell you that at the Kern County Science Fair, we're not going to disqualify projects that are demonstrations. We're not saying that, but we do want you to know as the teacher coach that projects that are demonstrations do not place at the fair. They're not going to win. The projects are not going to fare very well. The students are going to have a great experience, but the demonstration projects are just not competitive. And this year also, this is a change for those of you that have been around Science Fair for a while. Historically, the Kern County Science Fair has been heavily based on the scientific method. And with the coming of the California Next Generation Science Standards, the California NGSS, the strict adherence to the scientific method really has, our focus has shifted away from that. And if you attended Chelsea's training on Tuesday, you got quite the education around the science and engineering practices. Really, a science fair project should be rooted in what scientists and engineers do, which is the science and engineering practices. And so, in keeping with that, you'll notice that these major headings on this slide are what we're looking for, or we would like to shift to in the creation of our display board. This model is based on what you would see if you went into a real live scientist or engineer's laboratory. They are, or a university style research symposium, or I'll even go as far as at the Kern County Science Fair, if you spend some time in the high school division, you'll find that our high school students have moved away from the scientific method too. And those projects are based on these major headings as well. And, in addition to that, I've had the good fortune of traveling with some pretty incredible students to the International Science and Engineering Fair. And when we look at science fair projects that are competing at that level, they are also using these major headings. So what does that look like then on a display board? We're still putting together a display, but instead you'll see here that we're looking for things such as the research question really becomes critically important. A lit review that shows that the student has done some background research about their research question. What sorts of things have already, what sorts of work has already been done around their project, or what sorts of things can they learn before they start their investigation. then you'll see that we're still looking for materials and methods. It's still critically important that the results of the student's investigation are appropriately displayed, as well as having some sort of discussion about those results and coming up with a really good, solid conclusion to the project around, so what? You did all this work. What did you learn? Who does it matter to? What sorts of industry or business would this make a difference in? Et cetera, et cetera. So it's our hope this year that for Science Fair 2026, that we start to move toward preparing students around these major headings as opposed to the former strict adherence to the scientific method. All right, and then to our size restrictions, typically in 4th and 5th grade, any cardboard, trifold presentation, run-of-the-mill, traditional science fair board that you might purchase at Target or CVS, Walgreens, et cetera, is going to be fine for the Kern County Science Fair in our 4th and 5th grade category. Now, in our middle school and high school division, the size requirements are just a little different. These, our older students get a little more space, and the difference, there's a little bit more room in the width of the project, how much table space they actually get. And then in middle and high school, there also becomes that opportunity to create a really tall display board. And that's because historically our students in grades 6 to 12 just go so much deeper, and they have so much more to display because their projects are so much more sophisticated. So they get a much larger space with which to display their findings. So do not include as part of your display. If you bring these things to the science fair, we will take them away, unfortunately, on the big day. Don't bring food of any kind. Don't bring any glass down onto the competition floor. Absolutely no liquid is allowed as part of the display. The only thing that we do allow is for students to bring water bottles for themselves to drink while they're sitting there waiting to be judged, but it better have a lid. Water only. We don't allow any live plants down on the competition floor. We don't allow dirt or anything else really that's going to spill all over the place. We don't need a big mess. We don't need a safety hazard. I'm not walking around where, the team's not walking around ready to sweep up things. So make sure that anything that's part of the display isn't going to spill and make a mess. And we don't allow food because we have so many children down on the floor that we can't be monitoring food allergies. So since that's the case, we just don't allow any food. They're only down there for a couple of hours. So if the students need a snack, and have a snack before they go down onto the floor, and they'll be done in a couple of hours, and then you can go have lunch. We do make exceptions though for any students who might have diabetic or hypoglycemic issues, but you'll need to work those out with us on a case-by-case basis. Also, students should not have pictures of other students on their display board without written permission, unless it's if it's a minor. The only exception to that, if it's a sibling of the student who's actually done the project, but then too, the parent permission needs to be displayed as part of the project. And then finally, please warn the students that sometimes things get lost, broken, disappear potentially during competition. So if it's anything the student cannot afford to lose, or they just might, they just might die if it disappears, don't bring it to the science fair, or bring it down for judging when the student is actually there. And as soon as judging ends, carry it off the floor. Don't leave anything down there unattended. The projects are open to the public, so just be really mindful of that. Please do bring chairs for the students to sit in during judging. That works so much better. The students can bring a bottle of water. They need either a lunch or some money, depending on what you as a team want to do for that. The students, it works best if they have like a book to read or something like that while they're waiting for their turn to judge. Make sure that they have their original lab or log book as part of their project. And I talked earlier about those abstracts, 5 copies of those with the project, so that the judges can use those for pre-judging. And then make sure that the project, if you're in grades 6 to 12, if you have requested electricity as part of your display, make sure that you bring an extension cord if you think you're going to need one. Students in grades 4 and 5 do not have the electricity option. And students can have cell phones down on the floor during judging, but they should not be talking on the cell phone. They shouldn't be taking pictures of one another. We allow students to have that cell phone, quite honestly, so that when judging is over, they can use that cell phone to locate the adult chaperone who's responsible for them, so that we don't lose any students at the end of judging. But any student who is not using a cell phone appropriately on the display during judging time, we reserve the right to take those phones away and give them back to the student at the end of judging. All students will need to assess risk. We'll drop the link to the risk assessment form in the chat. All students must complete the risk assessment form and get that appropriately signed and uploaded into ZFairs as part of the registration process, even if there's no risk. Just say no risk, something like that. Have the teacher, coach, parent, etc. sign it and upload it to ZFairs, even if there was nothing risky done through the experimentation. All students must do this risk assessment form and upload it to ZFairs. Any project involving mold or mildew is not allowed in the science fair. If a project involving mold or mildew gets registered, it will be disqualified. Also, this is the most common reason I've disqualified projects in the last couple of years, and it's the famous, we call it on our team, the famous Petri dish project, where a student like randomly swabs a surface to test something like which antibacterial wipe works the best, or how many germs are on this doorknob, et cetera, et cetera. But bottom line is this: swabbing a surface and then culturing that swab in a Petri dish is completely and 100% not allowed. And the reason is that you don't know what you're growing in that Petri dish. And this potentially is like a completely uncontrolled, potentially very dangerous situation, depending on what, sort of surprise you might get that grows in that Petri dish. So it's not about us, trying to be controlling or hateful or mean. It could potentially be a very, very serious, risky situation. So therefore, culturing this is the culturing unknown bacteria rule. We very, very, very severely and significantly enforce this rule. Other things to think about: prescription drugs are not allowed, alcohol is not allowed, wine, beer, cigarettes, tobacco, anything else that's illegal to buy is not allowed. Controlled substances, etc., etc. Most medicine is not allowed. Just try to steer clear of these things. Dry ice is not allowed. On the other hand, though, we have had some students do some science fair projects with firearms, and under the right circumstances, this is allowed, but I have to have on record a hunter safety certificate for both the student as well as the designated supervisor, parent, teacher, whoever's working with the student on the project. Somebody has to have the adult must have the hunter safety certificate as well. And then the student has to be over 12 to do this type of project. And also, as part of the registration process and just part of being an ethical human being, is that it's really critical that this is a process about learning. This is an education event. It's much more. We should be much more focused on what the students are learning as opposed to cutthroat winning. So it really is critical that we follow the rules and that we are respectful and fair in all situations as part of the science fair process. And and that also being said, at the end of the day, on Science Fair Day, after the end of our award ceremonies, there will be some very disappointed students and probably some very disappointed families, and we are willing to listen in those situations. But I also want to warn all of you that we do not change a judge's decision. Once the judge's decisions are made, they are final, and we won't reverse those. So we really ask that the teacher and the teacher coach you really do your due diligence with your family members to make sure that they understand that rule, because oftentimes what we'll end up doing is we will listen for a while to our few who really are not very happy about the decisions that have been made, and then at that point we send them back to the school site to talk further about it, because at our level we're not going to change those decisions. So important deadlines and just a little bit about the registration process. Here's a nice graphic around starting the process and pacing things out, especially if you're doing a science fair with a whole group of students. Some critical things to think about is the registration deadline is January 16th. All students have to be registered by then. This year, Dignity Health Arena gave us they bumped back our typical date a week. So if you're feeling like, oh my goodness, I have less time, you do have less time, because so do we. And it was not a decision that we made. It was a decision that the Dignity Health Convention Center put on us. So you may this year, for those of you who have been around a while, you may need to have your school science fair a little sooner than usual. I recommend that school level science fairs happen in December, and that way you can spend the month of January getting all your students registered and all the paperwork submitted, et cetera, et cetera. Intent to participate forms, we'll drop that form in the chat for you, but intent to participate forms are due on December 15th. That just lets us know whether or not, whether your school's going to be doing science fair or your district's going to be doing science fair. Gives us an idea of, so that we can begin prepping. Other important dates, here you go. Intent to participate, December 15th. The registration deadline is January 16. March 2nd is setup day. Between 2 and 7. The big day of judging, et cetera, is March 3rd. And then California State Science Fair is tentatively set for April 11 and 12. The location is to be determined. And as soon as I know, I'll let all of you know. You're going to register your students on the ZFairs platform. I'll be hosting I'll talk about this again in a minute, but I'll be hosting a training about ZFairs in December for those of you that don't know how to use the platform. So if you're like, I don't know what to do, I have a training for you another day. That's going to take too much time. But if you previously registered as a teacher, your account's still good to go. No student accounts are in there anymore, though. All the students who have previously participated, I deleted their accounts. So students have to start over. There are 2 forms that have to be submitted, the student parent signature form as well as the risk assessment form. And I'll repeat that. All students will be uploading 2 forms to ZFairs. And then in addition to that, one more thing I want you to know is for those of you who are district science fair coordinators, you can actually choose more than one school as part of the registration process too. You know, if you're the Panama district coordinator, you could select all the Panama schools in your district, and that way you can see all the students in your district at the same time for all the schools that you're representing. We will open the ZFairs portal for you to start registering students in early November. If you're like, hey, wait a second, it doesn't work. Yeah, I know. It's not it's not open yet. It's not. We're still working on finishing and getting things all ready to go. But it'll be good to. We'll let you know when we open it up in early November. And we suggest that teachers register students before parents. Just seems to work better that way. And again, all students must have those 2 forms uploaded to ZFairs as part of the process, the parent signature form and the risk assessment form. That's it. If you've been around science fair a long time, you know that we have way simplified the process. It's only 2 forms, but all students must do those 2 forms and upload those to ZFairs. You don't send the forms to me. The forms go in the portal. If you're wanting to know more specifics sooner than later about how to register on ZFairs, Chelsea prepared this really great slide to help you out with that. There is an entry fee, $15 per student, not per project, $15 per student. Typically that is paid by the school or the school district. In some cases, the school or district does not choose to pay that, and then in that case, it gets paid by a parent, which is fine either way. ZFairs doesn't take credit card, unfortunately, so you can submit your payment in 2 ways, either by check or we take POs, purchase orders, from school districts. And finally, no student can be prevented from competing in the Kern County Science Fair because of this $15 registration fee. So if the $15 fee per student is a hardship for whatever reason, just reach out to me privately and we'll work something out. I'll be hosting a training for how to use ZFairs, how to register in ZFairs on December 9th. So we'll be sending out more information about that as it gets closer. It will be another Zoom situation like this, and it will be recorded. So it will be recorded and then posted, and you'll have it as a resource to support all of you in the registration process. Judges are looking for projects that are scientifically sound, that are investigations, not demonstrations. And at the same time, though, just because a display board is beautiful doesn't necessarily mean that a student wins. Typically, the students who are very well prepared for that oral interview are the students who do best at science fair. They're just really excited about what they learned, and they're really prepared to present it. So if it's a choice between where do you spend most of your time, on the display board or on the oral interview part, really prepare your student to really get good at talking about that project. That's really what matters most. And then I cannot harp enough on that abstract being well written and complete and thorough, and for the students to really have a deep understanding of the science behind the project, as well as the implications of what they learned. What are some questions that the judges might ask? Here are some ideas, but bottom line is this: the judges can ask the students whatever they want. Oftentimes students will have a little short speech about their project, like a little summary of what they did. Some judges want to hear that. Some judges will just go straight to the questions. that's really just up to the judges. But these are some of the questions that I give to the judges to start with. We made that change to we're in shifting away from the scientific method to the university style research presentation. So we've also modified our score sheet just a little bit. So we'll drop that link to our modified judging criteria sheet. It's very much the same, but we've tweaked it just a little bit to more closely match our changes around the headings for the display board. So we'll put that link in the chat for you, because I know a lot of you use those, use our judging score sheet for your school science fairs. So there you have it. All the rules and forms, and there's a rule book for grades 4 and 5. There's a rule book for grades 6 to 12. All the forms that you need can be found on the ZFairs webpage. They're all linked there. We even have the forms in English and Spanish. This presentation that I'm giving today, when the recording will be posted there. We try to keep that as the our one-stop shop for all things science fair. So bookmark or favorite the ZFairs webpage. And for those of you that are like, wait, this change thing is scary. What are you talking about? Here's a few resources for that as well. Around potentially, why we're doing what we're doing, and just to give you a little more information potentially to for how to coach your students in that space. And in hopes that creativity in science fair is valued. And when students just go to the internet and they like Google, what's a good science fair project? And like the first hit that comes up is the Science Buddies website. And they choose the first topic off of Science Buddies. That is so not creative. And it really isn't what the kids are passionate about. So really what we're hoping is that we move away from just like random Googling of good science fair project ideas, and we start to think about these tips that we've provided for you today, and start with, what are you curious about? And, look around your home, your playground. What do you like to watch on TV? What do you like to do for fun? And maybe there's a science fair project in that. And even going even further, we'll put the link to this student interest survey in the chat. We've even created a list, a short survey that you could give to your students if they're like, I don't know what to do for a topic. Well, here's a format that you could use to get kids really thinking about what are they interested in, what do they want to know more about, et cetera, et cetera. That passion, that thing that they're really curious about, really makes for a much better science fair project than just the run-of-the-mill random Googling of a good science fair project. So we're really hoping that as teachers and coaches, you can take your students through these ideas that we've provided for you here to really help students really harness or do some research about something that they love. There are awards at the science fair. All students will get a certificate of participation. The top 3 projects in every category, first place, second place, and third place in every single category in every division. So in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th to 8th grade, and grades 9 to 12. Some categories will have an honorable mention. Sometimes the judges like to give those, but that's not mandatory. In addition, the Kern County Science Foundation does have a scholarship program for our students who are in their senior year of high school. Those applications will come out soon. for our students who are going to be going away to college soon. That's a really cool opportunity for them. California State Science Fair. Our Kern County Science Fair is a stepping stone for qualification for the California State Science Fair. So all students who placed first in their category in grades 6 to 12 will qualify for the California State Science Fair. Our middle schoolers who get first place will qualify for the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovator Challenge, another cool opportunity. And then in high school, our high schoolers, 2 of our high school projects will get selected to represent Kern County at the International Science and Engineering Fair in Phoenix, Arizona this year. And then we give away a lot of other special awards. So if you're interested in ISEF, the International Science and Engineering Fair for our high school students, there's some information there. A video for our high school coaches who want to learn more about that. ISEF is only for high school kids. Proud of these 2 Kern County kiddos. They represented Kern County in May of 2025, qualified through Kern County, got to go to Columbus, Ohio and represent us in the World Science Fair. It was so cool. And Ishmeet Singh from Stockdale High School actually got 3rd place in his category. Pretty cool in the whole wide world, huh? Kiddo from Kern County. He represented us so well, and Simmer did a fantastic job too. And more information there. 2 projects from our high school categories will get selected to make that trip, and they get the trip is paid for by the Kern County Science Foundation. Really cool opportunity. The science fair is held at the Dignity Health Convention Center down on the concrete floor in the back. And as I mentioned, setup day is March 2nd. Judging is on March 3rd. We ask for your patience and kindness and flexibility as we make our way toward the fair. We really, as a team, we really try to do what's best for our Kern County students. We really do have our students at heart, and we really hope that you trust and support the decisions that we make. Now, we're going to put this link in the chat. If you would like to be on our email list, where we continue to send all kinds of updates, please go ahead and fill out this Google form real quick. As we wrap up today, that link will go in the chat. It's a Google form where basically we're just asking for your name, school, and email address. We can make sure and be able to send you all the things that you'll need in the weeks and months ahead. And that's all the new information that I have for now. I'm going to pause and also say this. Thank you to all of you who came this afternoon to join us. We're thrilled to have you. We look forward to working with you. If you don't have any questions and you're done for today, you're like, peace out, feel free to go ahead and log out. If you want to stick around and listen to some questions get answered, you can do that. Chelsea, would you go ahead? What questions do we have? Get out.
I think we answered them all throughout. We'll see.
Okay. Is there anyone who stuck behind, who might still be here, who might have any last minute?
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me turn on my camera. Hi, I missed you. I had a quick question. I'm at the elementary level. It's my first time doing this.
Just a second. Chelsea, can you stop the recording? Can you make that? Can you stop it? Okay.